What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Oak Tree Football channel, and in today's video I'm going to be going over my college football top 25 after week 10 heading into week 11 of the college football season. Once again, it was a pretty good week. There were some very good games. Of course, you had Clemson, Notre Dame, you had Georgia, Florida, two top 10 matchups. A few other ranked matchups like Indiana, Michigan. You had the kickoff of the Pac-12. There were a lot of really great things about this week, and I thought it was a very good week overall. There was definitely some great games. So, without further ado, I'm going to get into my top 25, starting at number 25, where I have Tulsa staying in their place. I had Tulsa staying at 25. I had Tulsa at 25 last week. And they did not play this week, I do believe. So not really any movement for them. Definitely wasn't. I don't think they've been a bad team this season. I actually think they've been pretty solid. They only have one loss, and that came against Oregon State, which is a very, very solid team, obviously. And they kept that game close. They beat UCF, who was almost in the top 10 at that time. They've I think they've been a really good all-around football team this season. They've had a few closer games, but overall, I think this team has been really good when they've played. And I have them ranked as number 25 in the nation. At number 24, I have Northwestern. Northwestern is looking like a really good football team right now, which is really surprising. They are 3-0 right now. In week 1, they destroyed Maryland. Week 2, barely beat Iowa. In week 3, they barely beat Nebraska by a touchdown. But still, their defense is looking really solid, and their offense is looking good enough to win ball games. Watch out for Northwestern in the Big Ten title race, especially with Wisconsin not playing 2 games this season. I think Northwestern has a real shot at making it to the Big Ten Championship, which is something I didn't think I would be saying a few weeks ago. Northwestern's looking like a good football team right now. I have them at 24 in the nation. Moving on to 23, where I have Auburn. Auburn's been a pretty good team this season. They didn't play this week, and their last game came against LSU, where they destroyed LSU 48-11, of course. Not much to say about them. Didn't play this week, but have some good talent. And they will return, not this week, but in a few weeks, because their game against Mississippi State got postponed. But we'll see how they do next time they play. It's going to be a bit of a while, but I think Auburn's been pretty solid this season. So I have them at 23 in the nation. At number 22, I have Texas. Texas barely snuck out with a win against West Virginia, but West Virginia's a pretty solid team overall. Their defense was really solid, only allowed West Virginia to, I believe, 13 points. Their offense looked a little bit slow, looked like it could have needed a little bit of a boost, but it still looked pretty good. I think Texas looked pretty good overall, and I think they deserve to be in the top 25. Coming up with a bye this week, and then they have Kansas, which they should win. But then after that, they have Iowa State and Kansas State, which could be a few tough games. But anyway, moving on to number 21, you have USC, first Pac-12 team on this list. USC, in their first game of the season, down 13 with only a few minutes left, but made a big comeback against Arizona State, which I thought that was a big win. I think Arizona State is one of the better teams in the Pac-12. And I thought, for me, it's really between, at least now and coming into the season, it was between Arizona State and USC to make it to the Pac-12 championship game from that division. So getting that win was extremely important for them. They played really solid in that game. I'm not going to move them up. I'm only going to move them up because it was only a 1-point win. But Kedon Slovis looked like a really solid quarterback. Their offense is really good. They did have a few turnovers, but their offense looks really good and their defense looks good enough. So good win for USC this weekend. At number 20, I have Liberty. Liberty stays undefeated. Big win for them against Virginia Tech. Liberty was the ranked team in this game, while Virginia Tech was not, but Liberty was the underdogs, and it was pretty big underdogs as well. I believe it was something like 17-point underdogs. But Liberty played really well. They kept this game close all the way through, 35-35, attempting a last-second 59-yard field goal. It's blocked, returned for a touchdown for Virginia Tech. But the Virginia Tech head coach called the timeout before they play. So Then Liberty brings their offense back on the field, get an 8-yard completion, attempt a 51-yard field goal, get it with 1 second left. It was incredible. It was a really, really good finish. Liberty's looking really solid right now. I really like their quarterback, Malik Willis. He had 4 total touchdowns and over 300 yards of total offense. I think their defense is pretty solid, even though they did allow 35 points this week. I just think this is a good team overall, and Liberty is a team to look out for this season. 19, you got SMU. I've been pretty impressed with SMU this season. I'm higher on them than most people. They did beat Temple this weekend. It was pretty close early, especially in the first half, but then they pulled away and pretty much destroyed them at the end. Don't want to move them up too much because it was close early, but then the offense really starts to get going like it should. Shane Buechele had a fantastic game like normal. And it was just a pretty good game for SMU. Stay in the rankings for me at 19. At number 18, I have Oklahoma. Oklahoma, early in the season, weren't looking great, but now they're looking like a very complete football team. They are looking so much better than they were. They won their last 4 on a 4-game winning streak right now, and they've looked really good in basically all those games, especially the last 3. Huge win against against Kansas this weekend. I know you're expected to destroy Kansas, but still, Oklahoma did it in really, really good fashion. Wasn't even close for a second. Spencer Rattler's been an okay quarterback this season. Tanner Mordecai's played a bit as well. I think the running game is pretty good at the moment. But this Oklahoma team is looking really good. They have a bye week this week, but then after that, they play Oklahoma State, which is going to be a really interesting game, and we'll have to see how they do there. At number 17, I have Iowa State. Iowa State only barely won this weekend, but against Baylor, won by 7, but it's win nonetheless. Breece Hall continued to be one of the best running backs in the nation. I believe he leads the nation in rushing yards right now for FBS. He's just been fantastic this season, and he's a big reason why Iowa State's doing so well. Brock Purdy hasn't been that good. We'll see if he can turn things around the rest of the year. At number 16, I have Marshall. Marshall has been one of the better, or one of the better Group of 5 schools this season. They've been really, really solid, in my opinion. They had a big win against UMass this week, 51-10. Their offense is looking really good. And their defense is actually looking really solid as well. I really like this Marshall team right now. I think they're one of the better teams in the nation. I have them at 16 in the nation. At number 15, I have Coastal Carolina, another Group of 5 team who's been fantastic. Coastal Carolina, really no one expected them to have the rise that they have had this season. They've just been fantastic. And that's something that not really anybody expected. Still undefeated, and they've had some really, really good games. This week against South Alabama, the game was a bit close. Not many points, but their defense held South Alabama to pretty low points. Offense didn't really get going, but still, it was good enough for a win. This team's looking good right now. They have a game against Troy, which they should win this weekend, but then they have a game against Appalachian State in 2 weeks, which is going to be a real interesting one. And if they can win that, maybe they can jump up into the top 10. And then to end the season, they have Liberty, which is going to be a really interesting game when it happens. So Coastal Carolina's got a few interesting games that are going to be really fun to watch this season. At number 14, I have Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State did win this weekend, but for me, it was a really uninspiring win. Only barely beat Kansas State, a team that was doing good, but then had a big loss a few weeks ago. I think Oklahoma State should have won this game better. I still think Oklahoma State's a good team, but Spencer Sanders wasn't great. The offense really was not good in this game. Their defense was pretty good, but the offense was not great at all, and that's something they need to change in the coming weeks if they want to have a chance to win that Big 12 title. Next up at number 13, I have Wisconsin. Wisconsin didn't play for the second straight week. And this is a big loss for them because that means they're not going to be they're going to be losing 2 of their games this season, which is going to make it a lot tougher to make it to the Big Ten championship. However, they will be playing this week against Michigan, and they're going to need to win that one because they're going to need to win basically every other game they have this season, or at least most of them, to make that Big Ten championship. It's going to be tough, but this Wisconsin team has the capability of doing it. The only reason I have them at 13 is because I haven't played in a few weeks, but this team definitely was really, really good against Illinois, and they definitely have a lot of talent. At number 12, I have Oregon. Oregon kicked off their season this week with a pretty good win against Stanford, which was expected. They looked solid. I thought Tyler Show was really solid in this game. He made a few mistakes, which is expected, but he looked like he knew what he was doing pretty well. I thought. So I didn't watch much of this game, but I thought Tyler Show was pretty solid. He did throw an interception, but he also threw a touchdown and ran for a touchdown. C.J. Verdell, who is one of my favorite players in college football, had a big game, over 100 yards and a touchdown on the ground. Oregon's defense is really good overall. They had a couple big plays again in that game against Stanford. Oregon was expected to win this game. They did. And maybe with a little help after some Stanford missed field goals. But Oregon's a really solid team in my opinion. And they have the best chance of any Pac-12 team to make it to the college football playoff this year. At 11, I have Indiana. Most people think this is a top 10 team. The only reason I have them at 11 is because, for me, in my rankings, they were 16 last week, and I didn't want them to make too big of a jump after beating, in my opinion, an unranked Michigan team. But it was a good win. This Indiana team is looking really, really good at the moment. And I think they have a really good shot at beating Ohio State, to be honest. I think this is the only team in the Big Ten that can beat Ohio State right now. They are looking really, really good. And this week against Michigan State, they should win that game. Probably going to go up to 4-0. Then you got the game against Ohio State. Ohio State will probably be undefeated as well. Two 4-0 teams going at it. That could be an interesting matchup. Might get College Game Day. You never know. So that Ohio State game is going to be big. Indiana's looking really, really solid right now. Michael Penix is looking like a good quarterback. They have a lot of really good receivers, tight ends. This team's looking good on both offense and defense. They're a team to look out for. In the top 10, at number 10, I have Georgia. Georgia had another loss this week, their second of the season. Just didn't look good for the most part. Early, they were dominating, and I thought that Georgia was actually going to dominate the game. They scored 14 points in less than 5 minutes. Rest of the game, they only scored 14 points. Florida was just moving the ball fantastic on them, even though Kyle Pitts eventually left the game with an injury. Their defense was solid in the second half. In the first half, it was pretty atrocious, other than the pick six and the first drive of the game. Second half, it was pretty good, only allowed Florida to 6 points, but that offense was really, really bad, to be honest. Stenson Bennett and Dwayne Mathis got nothing going at all. They were both really pretty bad. Zamir White, other than his big rush touchdown early in the game, didn't get anything going. This offense was not great at all. And if they want to, make it to a big bowl game, that offense needs to figure something out. Otherwise, they could be in some big trouble. At number 9, I have Miami. Miami barely beat NC State this weekend. On Friday. But I expected it to be a pretty close game. The offense looked great. D'Eriq King was fantastic. And NC State's a solid team, so I don't blame them too much for this almost loss. Their offense looked great. Their defense looked like it had some issues, which I think has been pretty much true for the entire season. So I don't think we learned too much about Miami in this game, but D'Eriq King looked great. Team looked pretty good overall. Good win for Miami. At number 8, I have BYU. BYU just continues to rise in the rankings after dominating Boise State. I was anticipating this to be a good game and to really just show if BYU was a good team this year and if they really maybe had a chance to contend for the playoff. It turns out they do. They dominated, and it wasn't close for a second. The only reason why Boise State put up 17 points is because they got a touchdown, recovered an onside kick, got another touchdown. If that doesn't happen, this game probably finishes 51-3 or 51-10. BYU was so good in this game. Zach Wilson was incredible. One of his best games. The running back, Algier, was good. Katoa has been good running back as well. Romney, the receiver, and Milne, another wide receiver, both been fantastic players this season. Their defense was incredible. Their offense was incredible. This team is a serious contender. They are really, really good. And I think they have a serious shot at making the college football playoff. Even though that's going to be really tough, I think it's possible. But they only have 2 games left, so you never know, but with some other teams losing towards the top, I think they have a chance. At number 7, I have Cincinnati. Cincinnati had a real chance to jump into the top 5 after Georgia lost this weekend, but their game wasn't too impressive. It definitely wasn't bad. They still got a pretty big win, but it wasn't as impressive as the teams that I have above them, how they won their games. Still, it was a really good win for Cincinnati. Cincinnati is looking like one of the better teams in the nation, no doubt about it. I have a few games left this season, which they have a good chance of winning those. They finished 10-0. This team has a real shot, or 11-0 with the ACC championship. This team has a real shot of making it to the college football playoff this season. Looking very solid right now. Desmond Ridder looks like a good quarterback. Cincinnati's got a good chance to make that college football playoff, in my opinion, which is pretty surprising, to be honest. At number 6, I have Florida. Florida had a big win against Georgia this weekend. I was really close to putting Florida at number 5, but I decided to keep them or have them at number 6. But Kyle Trask, fantastic game again. Kyle Pitts was really good until he left with an injury. Offense wasn't great in the second half, like I talked about in the Georgia part. Offense for Florida really didn't get anything going in the second half, but in the first half they were dominant. That was one of the best offensive showings I've seen in a single half this season, especially against a team with a defense as good as Georgia. The run game, still, I have a lot of questions about that, but that receiving attack with Pitts and Trask, throwing the ball, and then you got some great receivers there. That receiving game is really good. Florida has a real shot at making the college football playoff. I feel like I'm saying that a lot for the top teams, but it's true. And it looks like they will make it to the SEC championship to play likely against Alabama, or maybe someone else could get there, like Texas A&M, which is who I have at number 5. Texas A&M. I originally had this team at number 6, and I had Florida at number 5, but then I thought, well, Texas A&M beat Florida. I'll put them at number 5 because Texas A&M had a really impressive win this week as well. They absolutely destroyed South Carolina, and I have Texas A&M as the number 5 team in the nation right now. I wasn't expecting them to be this good. I don't think really anyone was, and if they can get some big wins this season, which they do have Auburn on the schedule, but not really anyone else. But if, they're sitting at number 5, and let's say Florida's in the top 4, then they lose in the SEC championship to someone like Bama. Texas A&M could sneak in there, which would be really, really good for them. And I think they have a chance of making it there, like I said, for some of the others. At number 4, I have Clemson. I didn't really have much to say about Clemson. Clemson did lose, but it was a very, very close game. They were without Trevor Lawrence. They were without a couple other players. DJ Uiagalelei, their quarterback, was actually really solid. I think this was an impressive loss. That's not something you hear often, but they did well. And these teams likely will play again in the ACC championship, and I think when they meet then, Clemson will be able to win, likely with Trevor Lawrence back. At number 3, I have Ohio State. No move for them again. Ohio State got a big win this week against Rutgers, which is expected. Rutgers is a better football team this year than they have been the past few years. It was closer than it had to be, but Justin Fields played incredible again. He's just been so good this season. Master Teague and Trey Sermon are looking like a really solid running back duo. Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave is looking like a really solid wide receiver duo. Their defense looks good. This team is really good overall. At number 2, I have Notre Dame sneaking into the top 2 after beating Clemson this weekend. It was an impressive win, no doubt. This offense looks really solid. I didn't really believe in Notre Dame too much, but they proved me wrong with this game. Definitely really, really good. Their defense didn't look too great, but Ian Book had a solid game. Their running backs were pretty good. So good game for Notre Dame. I have them at number 2. And then at number 1, I have Alabama staying there. Alabama had a bye this week, but they're still, in my opinion, the best team in the nation. They should make it to the college football playoff or at least the SEC championship. They're looking really, really good right now. And in my opinion, they are the best team in the nation. So that is my top 25 after week 10 of the 2020 college football season. Pretty good week overall, like I said earlier. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you did enjoy, don't forget to leave a like, and if you're new around here, feel free to subscribe for more NFL and college football content. Once again, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next video.